All right, shalom, shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, all honor, and glory to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai, by Shimon Karkodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule and teach well, who also taught us this 100% truth. Shalom to the whole elect. I'm a brother Kasaya from the GMS Atlanta Church, back here with another quick lesson. Lord willing, this is an edifying lesson, man. And Salakia, bear with me. I'm about to step outside. Well, never mind, I was. They started getting loud out there, so I'm gonna just do this lesson indoors. But it's all through the spirit, of course, man. It's nice out, so I just wanted to get in this lesson, man. Going into the names of the 12 tribes, all right, which all the names in the scriptures all have a significant meaning. They all have a meaning. Each character has a meaning behind their name. All right. Which, this is something you're not going to learn in your churches. All right. Because I didn't learn this in my church. All right. And I don't know. I'm not going to say that none of these churches do it, but I highly doubt it, But going into the names is very heavy to get into some of these names. All right. To understand the meaning behind them. Okay, and what they mean, okay, and why they was named the way they were named. This is good for you Israelites, man, which consists of you Native Americans, Latinos, and Negroes, as well as who are scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, who look at these heathen nations. All right, it's good to get into knowing your forefathers, man. This is all history, all right, and understanding the tribes, all right, and knowing who is who and how to, get out some idea of the tribes, okay, and who these people are today. Okay, so without further ado, I want to go ahead and get into the scriptures. We're gonna start at Genesis 29 and verse 32, which going in this Reuben, okay, and it says, "And Leah conceived and bare a son." Mind you, Leah, was Jacob's first wife. All right, but also the sister to Rachel, okay, and she was the most hated too. She was the hated one, so the Lord really just blessed her. All right, the Lord blessed her with having children. Now Rachel eventually had a son, but through the Spirit, eventually over time, they had servants and handmaids that worked under them, which they had children with Jacob too as well, in which, they became a part of the tribes as well. All right. But, not to be long-winded and be all over the place, let's just go ahead and get straight into the names. And it says, "And Leah conceived and bare a son." Now, mind you, in the ancient times, and still in these times too, but in the ancient times, it was very, very important, to have a son. Why? Because your lineage continue through your son. All right. Matter of fact, let's grab that real quick, which I had pulled up. This is Numbers 1 and 18. "And they assemble all the congregations together on the first day of the second month, and they declare their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the son, of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls." All right. So your lineage continues through your father. All right. Through your son. All right. And it comes through your father. So whatever, tribe your father is, that's what tribe you're from. All right. So this is how, it keeps the confusion down. So Esau, he likes to do that. He likes to cause confusion. All right. And this is why it's called Babylon the Great. Babylon means land of confusion, man. It means confusion. All right. This is the land of confusion. Okay. And ultimately, all right, Esau likes to, hey, it's your mother. Your mother's this. So whatever your mother and your father is, you're this, and this. No. Your pedigree is after what your father is. All right. And what his father is, and what his father is, and what his father is before him. All right. So yeah, lineage does count. It does take place, man. So this is to eliminate all the confusion. Okay. All right. But it was very important to have a son because your lineage continued through your son. All right. And oftentimes women find favor in, having a son. Okay. So this is why you're going to see why she was happy. All right. And she called his name Reuben. For she said, surely Yahweh have looked upon my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. See? Because Jacob hated Leah. Because he really wanted Rachel. But, they're due to their father, tricking Jacob and giving Leah first. Jacob didn't want Leah. He really wanted Rachel. Okay? All right? So she just wanted, to be loved. And she felt like, if she gave him a son, she would be loved. All right? It's only natural, man. So Reuben, going into the name of Reuben means see it's a son. All right? Which in the Paleo Hebrew tongue is Ra'albin. All right? And let's try to get into it. Sometimes in the scriptures, man, it'll mention the name, how they, the meaning of the name, but sometimes, you have to dig for it. All right? And sometimes Esau go off. All right? And this is Reuben. It says, behold, a son. But really it means see it's a son. All right? Okay? And we can get into these root words. See? All right? Where you see raw. All right? Which it says see. To see. Look. Look at. Look, it's a son. All right? Let's go back. All right? And which these root words, they're heavy. It's breaking down. Bun. Which, you see is bun, son. Which means son. See? All right? See, it's a son. In which, these things are speak for itself, through the spirit. All right? And now we're going to get into Simeon. Okay? The next verse, it says, and she conceived again and bare a son and said, because Yahweh have heard that I was hated, he had therefore given me a son also, and she called his name Simeon. All right, which means affliction heard. All right, which Shemai, which in the Paleo tongue, Hebrew tongue, is Shemai one. All right, which ultimately means affliction heard. Okay. All right, the Lord heard her prayers, her affliction. All right, so he gave her another son. All right. And there's nothing more than what a man, most men oftentimes want a boy. They want a son. All right. All right, to build that bond, to build that relationship and things that you might not have had with your own father. Or that yeah, exactly that you might not have with your own father. Because most Jakes out here grew up without a father. All right. But oftentimes, you build relationships with your son. Okay. So let's continue on. All right. And which you can go into Simeon. All right. But, it don't go into the full detail. All right. But Simeon heard. All right. So it just going to herd. Matter of fact, let's see what affliction says. Okay. Let me go back. Salakia. Satan. One, all right, which goes into affliction, all right, trouble, all right. So the Lord heard her affliction. That's why she named him Simeon. Shemaiah one, all right. All right, so let's get back into Genesis, and we read about Simeon. All right, let's go into Levi, all right. and she conceived again and bare a son. See, this the third son. The Lord just kept blessing her, man. All right, and conceived and bare a son, and said, now this time my husband will be joined unto me. All right, and there it is. That's Levi, which Levi means joined to me. All right, which in the Paleo Hebrew tongue name is lawyer. All right, joined to me because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. All right. So hey, the Lord just throwing a son. Because as a father, a loving father, you get close to you want to get close to your children, especially your sons. You're gonna be close to your daughters, of course. All right. But your sons is another thing, man, because that they need a certain guidance. All right. That they need to learn certain things to help them survive. All right. And I have a boy myself. Okay. And oftentimes, me as a man, you often take certain men and certain children under your wing. All right. To be a guide unto them, man. All right. So doing that, you have to get close to the mother. You have to be close to their mothers, man. Okay. So continuing on, let's get into Judah, all right, which is the head tribe. And she conceived again and bare a son. And she said, now I will praise Yahweh. See, there it is. All right. Going into the meaning of the names. All right. Yahweh thanks. All right. Which Judah in the Paleo Hebrew tongue is Yahweh. All right. Which means Yahweh thanks. All right. Therefore, she called his name Judah and left bearing. So she conceived 4 sons. All right. The Lord had her conceive 4 sons. All right. I'm glad, of course, Judah, she gave thanks to the Lord. All right. Which we can go into Judah. All right. It means praise. All right. And going to the root word, it means to give thanks. See, right here. To give thanks. All right. Here it is, to give thanks. So she thanked the Lord. All right. Which going to Yahweh. All right. Of course, Judah with the name of the Lord in his name, Yahweh. All right. Which is the name of the Heavenly Father. Going into thanks. All right. All right. Which going into thanks. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into the other tribes. All right. Going into the next chapter, chapter 30. All right. And we're going to go to Genesis 30, and we're going to start at Gad, verse 11. It says, and Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. All right. Which is the other son. All right. And which means Gad ultimately means troop. All right. Which in the Hebrew is the same Gad, God. All right. Troop. See? All right. But ultimately, man, you through this, you learn. Let's jump down to verse 13, and it says, and Leah said, happy am I, for the daughter will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. All right. See? All right. Asher means happy. In the Paleo Hebrew tongue, Asher is Ashar. Okay? All right. Next, we're going to get into Issachar. All right, which these are pretty simple, man. Self-explanatory. And it says, and Leah said, the Most High have given me my hire. All right. All right. Because I have given my maiden to my husband, and she called his name Issachar. Yeah. So see, she gave us her maid or her servant unto Jacob, and she had a child for him. All right, in which she named him Issachar. Well, in the Hebrew, all right, Paleo Hebrew tongue, Yashakar. All right, Salakia, Yashakar. Yeah, I'm saying it right. It's just me looking at it, but I said it I pronounced it correctly. Yashakar. Not Yashakar. Yashakar. All right. And ultimately, it goes into he is higher. Okay. And what you can see, you know, you can go into this. There's recompense, which, you know, we can see you going into it. All right. Which is the name is pretty much self-explanatory. All right. Higher. All right. Ultimately, it just means he is higher. Okay. So let's go to Zebulon. All right. In verse 20. And Leah said, the Most High. All right. Well, let's read verse 19. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, the Most High have endured me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, see, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulon. All right. All right. Which, you know, the name is already in there. All right. Which Zebulon is dwelling. It means dwelling. But going into the name in the Paleo, Zabalawan. All right. All right. That's the Paleo Hebrew name for Zebulon. All right. Which means dwelling. And oftentimes, you know, Esau go off on these, but these are the actual meaning behind the name. All right. Once you go into the root word, you know, dwelling, dwell. All right. See? All right. Dwell with. All right. But Zebulon or Zabalawan, all right, just goes into dwelling. Okay. In which we got most of it. Oh, Salakia. I skipped over one. Let's jump up to verse 8. All right. And I didn't get Naphtali. All right. Which here's one son that Rachel did bear. It says, and Rachel said, matter of fact, let's jump to verse 7. And Bella, Rachel's maid, conceived again, all right, and bare Jacob a second son, all right, which is Rachel's handmaid. And Rachel said, with great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali, all right, which means my wrestling, all right. It's self-explanatory, the names, all right. In which in the Paleo Hebrew tongue, his name is Naphtaliah. All right. All right. Let's go. We can go into that too and see. All right. But the name is pretty much already in there. It's self-explanatory. All right. That it gives you the meaning of each of the son's name. All right. In the story, that's why they're named the way they're named. They're not just named that just to be named. They named that because of things that are events that have taken place. Okay, oftentimes. All right, and I'm not saying that's with everybody, but you know they have different significant meanings. Okay, so we went into that. Let me see, did we get all of them in 30? Let's go to Genesis 35. All right, and this is where we get into Benjamin. All right, in verse 18. Okay, this is Benjamin. And it says, and it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Benon, Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. All right. And this is when Rachel actually conceived. All right. She conceived Benjamin. Okay. Lord finally, blessed her. All right. Blessed her to have a son. All right. But she named him Ben-Noni, but his father called him Benjamin, which, Benjamin goes into the son of the right. All right. In which we can go into that. You get into it, which you don't get it in every verse. Okay. But, Salakia. But, you can get it from digging into the names, man. All right. Which it says son of the right hand. All right. Which that's his name. His name is Bunyanyan. All right. Which means son of the right. That's what it means in the Paleo Hebrew. All right. And what you go into these root words, H1121. All right. It says son. All right. Bun. All right. Bun. All right. Going back. All right. Yum. All right. Going into right hand, right side, son of the right. Okay. So let's get into the last two tribes. Genesis 41. All right, in which we're going to get into Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay. Which is Jacob's grandson, which the Lord blessed Joseph. All right, to have two sons, which ultimately they became a part of the 12 tribes. All right. So let's jump down to verse 51. Bear with me. All right. It says, let's jump up to verse 1. It says, and the title of it says, the sons of Joseph. And unto Joseph were born two sons before the years of famine came. And Asathan, the daughter of Polythephera, priest of the On-bear unto him, and Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. All right, in which and we're just I'm gonna read it. It says, "For the Most High had said, He had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house." Yeah, remember Joseph was thrown in a pit by his brothers. And ultimately, he was made into a slave. All right. Sold off because his brothers were jealous. All right. And what the Lord did, the Lord blessed Joseph to get close to the Pharaoh. And ultimately helped that land to flourish. All right. And Joseph became a high prominent man in Egypt. All right, ultimately helping out his family in the end, but the Lord named him for that for a reason, made to forget. All right. So ultimately, you're seeing the name already in it. All right, that's what Manasseh mean. All right, which in the Paleo is Manasseh. All right. So let's get Joseph's second son, verse 52. In the name of the second called he Ephraim. For the Most High have caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. See? All right. In which, Ephraim, which ultimately you go into Ephraim in the Paleo, it goes into Aparayim. All right. Which means I am fruitful. All right. And as you can see, the name is already there. All right. You can go into this yourself. You can go into, the blue letter and go into the strong accordance to it. But the name is pretty much already self-explanatory. Some of it, you have to dig, and get it. But ultimately, man, these are the meaning of the name. Each one has a meaning. And these names are very important. They're very significant because you can apply them to the same people you see today. All right. With the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom going into these, the Native Americans, Latinos, and Negroes, you can see how they carry themselves, how they talk. You can see their spirit and representation of who these people today. All right, you don't see that in with them Amalekites. All right, those small hatters. all right, in the land, in the land today. All right, they don't present those type of spirits. All right, so ultimately, man, you know, I hope this was, Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson. I want to give all praises, all honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakudash, double honor to the apostle and elders, the great millstone, who rule and teach well, who also taught us is 100% true. Shalom to the hopeful elect.